Ooh.
And astonishing goal. That's the way to do it. Herrera. Ibrahimovic! With 3.5 minutes to play. Now Di Maria wants it back, gets it back. Fantastic.
That's the luck of the bounce off Gaston Ramirez. Top try! What a day this is turning out to be for Manchester United.
Mason Greenwood hits the spot.
In he goes towards Muriel. What a save, David De Gea. Brilliant save.
Thought about shooting, thought better on it. Martial! Comes in brilliantly. And James! Dream debut. Daniel James.
Hello and welcome back to the United Devils podcast. This week we are going to be looking at part one of ranking the Manchester United players' seasons so far. With me today, welcome back Arion, and we have a new panelist today in Jake. Welcome Jake, why don't you say a little bit about yourself?
Thanks very much for having me on, first of all. I'm Jake, I'm 22 years old, I'm currently in college at the moment, and big United fan. I've known Arion for, I'd say about 10 years, Arion has been. Very close friends for quite a while now, and then you jotted off to America. So it's good to be here, talk United. I'm excited to be on.
It's a pleasure to have you. So let's just, before we start the main part of the podcast, there is something that's obviously breaking news as of yesterday, is that the Premier League is finally set to resume on the 17th of June with two matches that would complete game week 29, with Sheffield United playing Aston Villa in a crucial game for the race to top four, and City playing Arsenal. Obviously, it must be great to have the Premier League back, or it would seem in the next couple weeks. Do you think they have actually, because there have been complaints that they've rushed this back too early and they're not thinking about the safety of the players. People like Troy Deeney and Kante not really willing to participate. What's your opinion on this move forward?
I think they're taking the right precautions. I think every player though should be entitled, like Troy Deeney and Kante, who do have, certain, like Troy Deeney's child, and then Kante himself with the heart conditions. I think players should be able to opt out if they can. I think, but I don't think they've rushed it back. I think they've given the players enough time as well to get full training sessions in, to get full match fitness, because you can't really get that full. It's a different type of fitness playing football matches and then training with your teammates and all allows that. Whereas if you're training at home and stuff and you're doing small exercises, I don't think you can really get that. But yeah, no, I don't think they've rushed it back. I think they're taking the right precautions with the constant testing and stuff. And as you've seen, I think it was 2 or 3 players out of the several hundred, tested positive. Just the main thing is that players who don't want to play should be allowed to have that choice.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a very good point. I think Troy Deeney had positive talks with the government and has decided to resume training, but Kante has refused and is not.
Yeah, I heard of that. That's right. Yeah,
it's totally fair, obviously, and it says something. Sorry, it says something about the talks with the government that Troy Deeney has decided to change his position and that he has decided to join training with the Premier League on the horizon. Obviously, La Liga will also be resuming very soon, and the Bundesliga has been playing for the last 3 game weeks, and I think most United fans have been probably watching Dortmund more than anyone else, but have been slightly disappointed with the fact that Sancho's been on the bench for the last 3 games, even against Bayern Munich, which they really did need to win after being, I think, embarrassed beforehand in the reverse leg. And of course, Bayern won 1-0 from a ridiculous chip from Joshua Kimmich. But Aaron, were you slightly disappointed not to see more of Sancho in that?
Well, I think the reason he hasn't been starting is because he was hurt, right? I think he had some sort of a knock coming into these games. So I was expecting him to start against Bayern, to be fair, because he had 2 games off the bench. So I thought he might get to start against Bayern, because it was a 6-pointer for the title for them, pretty much, that Bayern game. But I guess they didn't want to risk him. So we don't really know what's going on behind the scenes, but. To be honest, just to tag along to the first point that Jake was making, that I feel like if anything was rushed a little bit, it was the Bundesliga, because it felt like they only trained for a couple of weeks before they got straight back into the action, whereas it seems like the Premier League are really taking their time with the planning, and if they're not going to scrap this season, I don't think there's going to be that much many improvements by August to start the season clear. So they may as well just get it back going and finish off whatever games are left. And they're giving them way more time than a regular preseason to kind of get back into shape and get the games back underway. So I think in terms of that, if anybody has prepared well, I think the Premier League have quite a handle on it. And but I can't wait for the Premier League to come back, because the Bundesliga, I thought at first it was going to do it for me. I was really excited, but it's just not the same as watching United. Obviously, it's not the same kind of emotions.
Yeah, absolutely. I have felt that as well. I was just sort of watching the Bayern game and just thinking I could do something while I'm doing this, because I'm not that kind of gripped by it. But then when the United game's on, I can't do anything else. It's just literally staring at that screen and probably complaining quite a lot at the same time. But it's on the way. And I'm pretty sure United's first game will be against Jose Mourinho's Tottenham Hotspur. We are yet. Have they decided whether they are doing neutral grounds, or is it just going to be the home and away as they were expecting to?
I'm pretty sure it's the home and away. I'm pretty sure it is.
So it will be at the new Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and it will be the first time United are playing at that stadium. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But of course, to our main topic, we'll be doing the first part of our rating the Manchester United squad's season so far. Because there are players that have played maybe 1 or 2 matches, especially in the Astana game, and there's too much to judge in that sense, with not much that we've seen really from senior appearances. We are going to be doing just the players that have played 5 or more times this season in the various competitions. And so we'll start with number 1, David De Gea. Obviously been criticised at times for his mistakes. The one against Watford was particularly upset, just sort of gut punching, in the sense that we never would have expected it. And same for the Everton one. There have been calls to replace him with Dean Henderson and things like that. I think that's a bit over the top, because I do think De Gea has shown he has had a good season. But Jake, how would you rate his season as a whole?
So for out of 10, I was around a 6, because I have here his 3 errors leading to goals, and I just found him very frustrating at times, because he was at such a high, the past couple of years, and it just seems as though he makes one mistake and then everything just goes downhill after that. Like he's like a sort of a puppy. Like he just shrinks when he makes one mistake. So I gave him a 6. I think he needs to look at his mental part of the game, because I think it was a bit premature to call Dean Henderson in, but it's not out of the question, I don't think, because of obviously the season Dean Henderson's had. I mean, if we were going to bring Dean Henderson in, I'd say maybe usher Romero out. It might sound a bit mad, and then have Dean come in as a second goalkeeper. Yeah, but I had David De Gea as a 6. Yeah.
Yeah, that does seem fair. He built himself those extremely high sort of standard of quality, and he's not really shown it as often as he has been. Yeah. Would you agree with that 6 out of 10, Arion?
Yeah, I think it's I think around a 5-6 is like an average score, and I feel like he was back to his best or near back to his best at times in some games. And I think a lot of that comes down to the improved defense as well, because the additions of Wan-Bissaka and Maguire have helped tremendously. I guess even with his confidence, because even though sometimes it can act in a bad way, because maybe he can lapse in concentration because he doesn't have to be as alert at times as he did when he had like the likes of Smalling or Jones in front of him. But I feel like that also adds him confidence too, and I think the past few games, especially before the break, where they had 9 clean sheets in 11 games, I think showed what that defense is capable of, and I think De Gea still has a place in it, and he's definitely been a lot better this season than last season. So I think like a 6 is a fair assessment, because he hasn't been at the top of his game, and I don't think he's been considered in the top 3 keepers in the league this season, but he's improved.
No, I do agree. I do think he has sort of grown in confidence with the defense, and so we'll have to see how he is. I mean, he's obviously signed a new contract. He's going to be here for the long term. I do see actually what you said, Jake, about swapping Romero for Henderson, and what I've sort of thought is maybe try and set Henderson on loan for the next season at Sheffield United if they do get European football through either the Europa League or even the Champions League. It's still up for grabs, really.
Yeah.
And then sort of when Romero's contract comes to an end, allow him to sort of leave as leave like with a hero's farewell, that kind of thing. Because he will be 34 next season. So it would be kind of perfect timing for Henderson to just slot in and compete with David De Gea.
Yeah.
But let's move straight on to the number 2, Victor Lindelof. Played 35 times this season. Had a couple injuries which took him out of a few of the Premier League games, but for the most part was the starting centre back alongside Harry Maguire. I mean, he's had some shaky moments in the season, but how would you rank his overall season, Arion?
I think the addition of Maguire helped him, but also exposed him a little bit in some areas, because as good as he was last season, and I kind of thought that he was a player of the year last season over Luke Shaw, with just how he stepped up from his first season, where a lot of people, including me at times, were writing him off. So I think his improvement as a solid defender has been gradual over the 2 seasons, but I think this season he hasn't been as good as he was last year. I think a lot of us felt last year that he's established himself as this solid defender and he would carry that into this season. But I think with somebody as solid as Maguire coming in next to him, and somebody as good in the air as Maguire too, he was targeted a lot in some games, and he's cost us at times with some aerial duels that he's lost, and he hasn't been flawless by any means. So I think I don't think you could really give him anywhere near the higher score. So I think a 6 would be a fair reflection of him, because I think Maguire has set the standard that we hope the centre back partnering him will match in the future.
Yeah, I do sort of see that, and I also think probably he looked a lot better last season because the players around him probably weren't playing as well throughout. Obviously, Bailly had his issues at the beginning and had then injury problems. Smalling and Jones are constantly inconsistent, and really Rojo's just not there. But I mean, that sort of summed up United really last season, looking for glimmering lights in a dark path. So, I mean, Jake, would you agree with that 6 out of 10 for Victor Lindelof?
I actually have a 6 out of 10 as well, yeah. My only problem with Lindelof is I think he's a great ball-playing centre-back, but I just think I question his aerial abilities and his physicality. I think that they're the 2 weaknesses I think he has, which can be, well exploited in the Premier League. So where you see Troy Deeney targeting him every time he played him because he just can't compete. Like, I mean, just on the topic of centre-backs, I think if we brought in someone who had that physicality and stuff, I think, we could have... I know we had a great defence this season, but I think we'd go to another level, just alongside Maguire. I just think he's just a bit have 7 clean sheets out of 26 games, like, you know, which isn't fantastic. Yeah, I had a 6 out of 10 too from.
So would you rather see Eric Bailly start alongside Lindelof for when we resume the league?
Yeah, I actually think so. Me and Arion love Bailly. I love his rashness, his tackles. He's quick, too quick for a centre back. I actually think he's underrated on the ball too. Seeing him, Joey pops out a roulette here and there. But I think he complements Maguire well because, you know, Maguire obviously isn't that quick, and I think it's nice to have someone quick and then someone aerial wise, you know, like as Maguire is great, and I also think he can compete physically. So yeah, I think I'd have Bailly over Lindelof. Bailly just needs to stay out of the injury zone. I think it's just every single time he comes back, it's something like, you know, it's just a tiny tweak, and he's a bit rash in his tackles, I think, which has led to some of his injuries. But if he can tone up a bit, you know, and get maybe a bit sort of cleaner, if that makes sense, then I think, you know, he can be a top centre back. Yeah, always excited when Bailly comes back.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's the one that's he's up next actually. So Eric Bailly, like you said, he's come back. He has done some of those roulettes against Chelsea, where he's basically turned Batshuayi around in the box somehow. Yeah. And he's just about made this rating because he has played 5 times. Yeah. I mean, how would you rank his brief period? Obviously, he did come on against Manchester City when Brandon Williams was struggling against Mahrez and did probably, you know, shore up that defence a little bit in that sense. But I mean, can you give him a rating other than 6, being the fact that he has been injured for so long?
Yeah, I don't know. I gave him a 5. I found it really difficult on the list to give a rating to the people who hadn't really played, but I gave Bailly 5. I thought, you know, he came back and he was very positive. The roulette against Chelsea was great to watch. It had me up off my seat. It's difficult to give him a rating, I think, just because he hasn't played a lot. But I think he was good when he comes back. Just please stay out of the injury room. That's all I ask for him.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really much you can say. You just let's just hope that he can stay fit for a long period of time, and we'll just have to see how that really goes. We'll move straight on to the next one because I've got a feeling this is going to be less fun. Arion, Phil Jones has actually still managed to play 8 times this season. He played against Burnley, and we conceded 2 very physical goals down his side. We played against Man City and got ripped apart. I mean, is there much you can say about Phil Jones?
Wasn't he the one that cost us against Sheffield as well?
Yeah, he was.
He was behind the line. I tried to blank that from my memory, and it didn't work.
It just seems like at this point, every time he plays, he contributes negatively, and he's a pretty big guy, but he gets just bullied off the ball, and yeah, it's just I hate it. I hate it as a human when he says those things about his testimonial that only his parents would show up and stuff. But I think like he has overstayed his welcome, because I think it's been obvious for a long time now that he was not going to reach the potential that was set out for him when we signed him. And him and Smalling have been promising when we signed him, and we've seen them solid at times. But yeah, no, I don't even know what rating to give him, because I don't want to be too harsh. But he hasn't really played that much to warrant anything other than something under 5, like a 3, because he just has. Because whenever he stepped in, he just hasn't been good, and even in games against lesser opposition, when he was given a chance, he just makes mistakes. And I feel like one of his underrated aspects of his game is that he is very good on the ball in terms of distribution, but that's about it. He doesn't really use his physicality, and his football IQ is pretty much non-existent. So, yeah, I don't want to be too harsh, but I think this is the summer that we're going to see the back of him.
Yeah, of course. I think that's really fair. I think the fact is that people still actually want him, and I think a team like West Ham, maybe, or Crystal Palace are in for Phil Jones. And do you think, Jake? Do you think he's one of those players that would just really, really play much better under kind of less harsh limelight, and that he'd play better at a smaller club than he would at somewhere as big as Manchester United?
Yeah, Yeah, definitely. I think somewhere like West Ham is perfect for him, because you have to remember, like, he's been at Manchester United for almost 10 years now. Like, he's trained with some top quality players, and I think he goes to West Ham or something like that and he starts because of the experience he has. Just, we have standards at United, and he's just obviously not able for them. And I mean, even look at Chris Smalling going off to Roma. Like, he's been great there from what I've seen. You know, they love him over there. They want him to stay, and that's Roma. Like, that's a pretty big club. And I just think maybe some players just need to switch sometimes, really. And I mean, I think somewhere like a lesser Premier League team would be perfect for Phil Jones, because, as Rio said, Arion, he's good on the football. He just needs to get that. He's a big guy. Like, you know, he's physically big, and I don't understand how he gets shrugged off the ball. Was it Burnley where he got like turned and he just got shrugged, just like left in the dirt? And I think he can strive somewhere in the Premier League. I think. I don't think he's, you know, Championship or anything level. I think he can do well in the Premier League.
Yeah. Well, I mean, anywhere but here, really. Yeah, you're right. I would sort of like to see something, you know, good happen from him moving away, because, I mean, I do feel a little bit sorry for him because he has been injured for so long. You know, he's had these injury problems, especially with the blood clot he had in 2015. And, you know, we just have to see. I mean, obviously, I don't think he has a future anymore. I think Solskjaer has found that out quite quickly. It's just whether he decides that Tuanzebe is also sort of ready for that. But we'll come back to Tuanzebe later on in these parts. But yeah, we'll just have to see what happens to Phil Jones. I do, if a deal materializes, essentially. But let's move straight on to the current Manchester United captain, Harry Maguire. Has played pretty much most minutes he can possibly find, because he is clearly United's best centre-back. 41 appearances this season, and it took a while, but he did finally score his first goal against Tranmere, and then the second one was probably a much more emphatic one against Chelsea. How would you rank his season, Jake?
I absolutely love Maguire, to be honest with you. I really do. I was absolutely buzzing when we signed him. I think just overall, he's just physically, he's great in the air, great on the ball. He loves to drive out from the back. We see him do that all the time. Comes up into the midfield, passes it off. He's forward thinking, and I think, you know, the price tag doesn't really come into my mind. 80 million. I really didn't. They could have paid 100 for him. I didn't care. Once we were linked with him, I wanted him straight away. I think he's been just a lot like Wan-Bissaka. He's just been an absolute revelation to have. Like, you can depend on him. You don't panic, you know, when you have someone attacking. And I think he's great at reading play, when to come back, when to tackle and stuff. I have him down as a 7. I think I loved when he got his first goal against Tranmere Rovers, and what a goal as well, by the way. It was an absolute cracker. And then the one against Chelsea I was so dying for him to get a goal, to be quite honest with you. And I think, as a person, I think he's just a great leader. I really do. I think he's it helps that he's, like, you know, 7 foot, like, you know, but I think how he speaks. I watched him on Sky Sports during the quarantine when he's being interviewed on. He's just a great lad, you know, but I think he's also firm as well. Like, you always see him when we score, he comes over and his arms are around and he's shouting, like, you know, keeping the focus and stuff. I think he was given the captaincy correctly straight away, more or less. I don't see anyone else who can really take it away from him. Yeah, so I have Maguire. I have him now into 7, but I think I'll give him an 8. I think he's been. I mean, don't we have was it the second best defense in Europe? I think it was. Yes. I mean, that also goes alongside with Wan-Bissaka. I think the two of them, but yeah, I absolutely love Maguire. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I can't sort of. I think there was a lot of rival fans and actually United fans saying that we overpaid for a mid-table defender and whatever, and forgetting that you know, we wanted him last year too, and he would have cost, what, 20, 25 million less? But we wanted him last year under Mourinho, and I'm pretty sure they wouldn't have been saying that the year before, well, some people anyway. But he's done exceptionally well, and the fact that we have to overpay is you know, irrelevant to the fact that he's actually done a really good job and has sort of, you know, he is playing on the left-hand side, which he's not a left-footed player, so it is obviously more difficult for him, and he's done it very, very well. I mean, he's had maybe 2 or 3 shaky games or something like that. I might be wrong on that point, but because we have had some bad games, but obviously he's done very well, and we have kept a lot of clean sheets, and he's been so important to that side. He's barely been rested, so and when he was, it went badly against Manchester City. So we know how important his impact has been. So
like I remember his first game, and he was just winning so many headers, like Joe, every single aerial duel he was just winning. It got me so excited, Joe, just at the fact that there was someone winning headers. Like, we were so bad the season before, Joe, Lindelof letting the ball go over his head and stuff, whereas Maguire was just straight in, no nonsense, just up, boom, ball out. Like, it was, you know, I think he's an absolute revelation, to be honest with you, at the club.
Yeah, I can't sort of say he's not changed the way we've defended in that sense, but we'll just have to, you know, I think 8's fair. Arion, would you give him something different?
Yeah, so when you first asked it, I was kind of set on a 7, but then Jake started talking about the leadership, and I actually thought about everything in a nutshell of like what he brought to the team, other than just how good he is on the pitch. And you really don't see it often for a player to come in and become the club captain, not only like a stand-in captain, but the club captain straight away. And like Jake said, the way he carries himself and how he handles everything in the media and on the pitch, it just seems like he came in and all the lads look up to him straight away, even though like some people were ridiculing that he's a mid-table defender. But he came in and he's got everybody's respect, and he became a leader right off the bat. And you could see when he scored that goal at Chelsea, the fans love him. When he high-fived the fan that was peeking out of the away end and stuff like that, and I'm pretty sure he was a United fan when he was younger too, from what I'm seeing, like from his posts and his family and stuff like that. So I think it's just everything just kind of fell into place perfectly for him. And I was going to give him a 7 because of that shaky start I had a little bit. He had a few games in the beginning where I think it just took him a little bit of time to get used to being at the club of United stature, and the fact that he was captaining a lot of games back then too. And I think he just had to get used to it and come to grips with his defense and learn the habits of the players alongside of him. And now he just looks like, he's in his element, and Ollie doesn't even rest him for games against Tranmere, which kind of says a lot about how important he is to the team at the moment. So I think he deserves an 8 on, like, not even just on the pitch, but what he brought off the pitch as well. It's like he's very fitting to be a Manchester United captain.
Yeah, I do agree. One person who has also been wearing the armband at times for Manchester United is the next person on the list, Paul Pogba. This is going to be an interesting one, I think. Made 8 appearances this season. Obviously, 2 lengthy injuries have prevented him from playing regularly. I mean, obviously, he started the season really well. We thought this was going to be, you know, he was supposed to leave this season after saying he wanted a new challenge, vaguely, and then didn't leave, and then stayed, and he got 2 assists in the first game against Chelsea. That fantastic ball over to Rashford, who made it 3-0, and then basically running most of the pitch before passing it to James for his emotional debut goal. He then, you know, that penalty obviously against Wolves was heavily criticised because, you know, it was Paul Pogba choosing to take a penalty and missing it. And then, you know, from that point, it all just went pretty much downhill from there. He made 2 or 3 appearances in a pocket, and then another 2 or 3 appearances later on in the season before getting injured again. He is now back and fully fit, it would seem, and ready to start the season. But overall, so far, Arion, what would you rate Pogba's season as?
So it's difficult to rate it because of how little he has played, but I think we were talking in the past seasons, and particularly last season, when there were rumors that he might move on, about how ordinary our midfield would look without him. And this season, we really found that out when the likes of Pereira were asked to step up on a regular basis and stuff like that. And then especially when McTominay got injured too, and there was just nothing there. And even then, when Matic came back, we were everybody was rejoiced because he just brought that little bit of quality that we were lacking. So, and I think the sign of just how good he is to me was when he came on against Watford away and literally created about 3 chances in 5 minutes with just purely playing long balls over the top. But just the accuracy and the crispness on the passes he's just a quality footballer, and I would love him to stay. And I wonder if this coronavirus thing might affect it in any way. But yeah, I was at that Chelsea game, and he just looked incredible. He was linking up with everybody, and he looked in good spirits. His body language was good, and when he's locked in like that, I think he's hands down the best central midfielder in the world. So yeah, it's difficult to rate him because I feel like on the performances that he's put in this season when he's played, he would be a 6 or a 7 easily. But the fact that he hasn't played, and he's just kind of the team has been missing him a lot. I feel like we could have been way higher if he was involved. I think top 4 would have been comfortable. So I don't know, but I think a 5 would be fair because I mean injury is not really his fault, and when he's played, he hasn't been playing bad, but he just hasn't been involved enough. So it's kind of underwhelming.
Yeah, I do see what you mean. I think that Watford game did sort of make it very clear that we were missing such a crucial player. And even against Newcastle, we were 4-1 up when he came on, and he basically just passed the ball about, controlled the tempo, and made sure everything was very kind of composed and controlled in the midfield. Something that we had been missing for points in that season. I think more recently we have been doing well without him, but obviously we do even better with him. And so that does pose the question, Jake, does he just go straight back into the starting 11 when the season resumes?
Yeah, I think so. I think you have to throw him in there with Bruno. Like Arion says, I think we don't have a whole lot of creative players now. Well, now that Bruno's came in, like, you know, we have that outlet, but I think Pogba just offers something different, the physicality, the passing range. He's a threat in the box as well when he does go in. I don't know, like it's a shame that there's all this media that create this whole like negative thing around him, which, you know, with me and Ariola and stuff, and him leaving the whole time. It's sort of like I got to a stage, like I'm Pogba's biggest fan. When he arrived, I so excited. And then it's just there's all these it's just getting boring now. It's taking energy out of me. Just, you know, Graham Soon is always going on about him when he's not even playing. Yeah, so you're sort of like, Joe, I wish you could stay, Pogba, but if you're gonna bring all this negativity towards us, like, I wish you all the best and move on, because at the end of the day, I just want to see the guy play football. That's why I love him first and foremost. Like, I loved him before he came back. I love watching him at Juventus and stuff. It's draining my energy, all this negativity around him. But I definitely think, I hope the coronavirus, this whole situation has, got him thinking maybe. I mean, it's so difficult. He seems really happy at the club, and he gets on with everyone. And then it's just me and Ariola, I suppose, on the outside creating all this thing. And then his brothers and stuff as well, who are saying he wants to leave. And it's just, we don't need this kind of attention. We're trying to get back to where we were. And it's just, we got on fine without him, like there's Bruno coming back. Like, we've seen what Bruno done. But I think he definitely has to, if he has his mindset on United, then he definitely has to come back and play with Bruno, because the two of them can absolutely rip it up, I think.
Yeah, I can't actually. Everyone's been sort of even just begging for the training photos of them two together. And I think everyone is excited to see those two play, because Pogba, he's not the kind of player that if he was ready to leave, he wouldn't just down tools and say, I'm not going to play anymore. He would still play. He's a very professional person like that, it seems, because I mean, he's yet to, hand in a transfer request or even force a move. He's not done anything like that. I mean, it's not even clear that he's never said personally himself that he wants to leave Manchester United, which I think is the important part. And his agent can say what he wants. His agent also said he offered Pogba and Mkhitaryan to Manchester City, but they both returned it down. So his agent can sort of.
His agent is such a plague. Honest to God, he's just desperate for attention, I think, and he's just, he just dishes his players around Europe, doesn't he? Like, it's just, I mean, it's obviously it's for his own money, but I mean, I seen yesterday, obviously, a report saying that Real Madrid have offered us 4 players, with James Rodriguez and Martin Odegaard and stuff for Pogba and all this. It gets a bit out of hand with him. Like, I personally, I don't think he's going anywhere. I don't think anyone can afford him at the moment, like, the current economic state and stuff of football. So I just hope he's focused and ready to, come back and go for the Premier League, because I think with the right signings this summer, we could go that way with him. Yeah,
I do. I completely agree. I do sort of. We'll just. I'm kind of excited to see him play, just because, I mean, I remember what he was like at the beginning of the season. He was controlling the play. He was playing all this, and even pre-season, he was just doing all the simple things right. And it was really, really good to see, because he wasn't sort of having to, do a rainbow flick 30 yards and then volley it from the halfway line or whatever, like what people were what the over expectations are and things. And he's just doing the simple things right, and it was working and allowing other players to do what they had to do. And with Bruno, that can only be that can only improve. So let's just see how that goes. We will move on to the next player. It's the number 8 Juan Mata, who everyone was expecting to play a lot less this season, even though he signed a new 2-year deal. It seemed clear that he was going to be taking a step back from regular first-team football. It was going to be he took a pay cut, and he became more of a squad player to play irregularly in the cup competitions and off the bench in the Premier League. And that's exactly what happened this season. And he kind of mostly played as a number 10, but sometimes especially when Bruno came in, he played on the right in the Europa League, and that seemed to work quite nicely, even though he didn't have a lot of pace. He seems to have found sort of this role for himself in the team. And Jake, how do you think he's done overall?
Yeah, I don't think. Like, we were crying out before Bruno came. We were crying out for someone who had that creative spark and stuff. And I think he could have been played a lot more. Actually, I think in the cam position, I just think he sees the game differently. The 1-2s, just the passes. He can see things a lot differently than most of the players did. I think when he's out on the right wing, I don't think he was utilised there. I think that was pointless. I think. I always wanted him as a cam. I think Arion actually, I wasn't big on Juan Mata, to be honest with you, when he was playing this season, but Arion actually turned me on him. I think he always puts in his shift. He always, tries his best. I have him down as a 5 or 6, I think, just because he's a squad player now, sort of way. And I think he's something great to have for cup games and stuff. I think he obviously has quality on the ball. He's arguably one of the best touches you can have, I have him down to 5 or 6. Not utilising the right wing. I think it's not the way we play. You see, we want those runners, balls over the top, getting down. I just don't think he just kept cutting in. He had to cut back because of his left foot. But I have him down as a 6.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I think he does sort of. You're right. He does read the game differently, and I think even though he kind of hasn't been playing over the likes of Lingard and Pereira at times, he has sort of shown that he can come on or can start a cup game and have a kind of impact against those kind of teams. So, Aaron, would you agree with a 6 out of 10?
Yeah, I think Like you said at the beginning, I don't think anybody expected him to feature as heavily as he did, because I think it was looking like that new deal will be more of a mentorship role for some of the younger players, and I think he's at the point of his career where he's happy with that, with featuring sometimes and then taking a bit of a backseat and maybe transitioning into coaching a little bit. So I think. But when he has played, I don't think he has been bad. Like that moment against Wolves in the FA Cup when he went through and scored that chip, he still has moments of quality in him. But it's just about utilizing him correctly, because he's just not a week in, week out player anymore. So I think also when Bruno came in and he had somebody alongside of him on this similar wavelength when it comes to creativity, you could see the interchanges with them. Like that goal against Bruges comes to mind, where Bruno found him over the top and he just laid it off to Gallo to tap it in. Like it was all one touch, quick thinking. It just shows you the more quality you have in a team, those kind of players thrive a lot, because Mata is not somebody that's going to carry your team at this point. But when he has a lot of quality around him, he can still be a very useful option. So I think when he has played, he hasn't let us down. So I think 6 is a fair assessment. But now with players coming back to fitness, I think he can be used properly again, and he's going to have more weapons to use when he does play centrally.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. We'll move straight on to the next player, Anthony Martial. Obviously was told at the start of the season that he was going to be the starting striker, obviously with Rashford changing from his striker position to left wing, and Martial then took Lukaku's number 9 shirt, took his own shirt back, you could say, and started the season as striker and started really well. 2 goals in his first 2 games, and then 4 games in, he had a bad injury which sidelined him for 2 months, and yet he has still managed to score 16 goals in 34 games this season, and really has scored some crucial goals. I mean, we never really thought of him as the big game player. Rashford was the one who scored against the big teams, and now Martial's sort of starting to do the same thing. I mean, he scored against Chelsea with a great header. He scored a brilliantly worked goal against City as well. Actually scored against City twice. So, I mean, it is showing that he can just sort of turn up when he needs to. Jake, there was a lot of criticism on allowing Martial to go back to a striker, because he was determined as not really a starting striker. So, but how would you say he's done so far this season?
First of all, I don't understand why people wouldn't want him as a striker. Did they not remember him a Louis van Gaal season? When he went into the striker role, and he was pretty good there, turning Van Dijk inside out. I think he was thrown into the number 9 because he's more of a natural finisher than Rashford. I was a bit skeptical, to be honest with you, because of his size and we're in the Premier League. But I think the goal against Chelsea, the header, was really sort of surprising, because he's not known for his heading ability, and that was a great goal. The trajectory on it, to get to the left, to the right side of the goalkeeper. I mean, I think he's gone up a level this season. I mean, 16 goals is pretty good considering he was out for 2 months as well. I have him down to 7. I mean, I think he can. I heard we're in for a striker. Obviously, all these reports and stuff. I heard we're in for a striker. I don't know if would you take one or would you not? I mean, I've liked him this season, to be honest. I think his goal return's been great. 11 in the Premier League is pretty decent considering he was out for 2 months. Where how many could he have got if had this pandemic not happened and stuff? I have now as a 7. I think some of my ratings on this have just been a bit low, just because I'm frustrated that we haven't secured the top 4, or we're not in there. I think we had those opportunities again, like last season, to get it, and it's just we're given it on a silver platter and we just don't take it. We seem to just bottle it straight away. So, I have him down as a 7. Great goal return, I think, out of the games he's played. I think he's very creative. Actually, say when he drops and lets people go beyond him, say Rashford or Dan James. I think he's actually creative and he can play the 1-2s as well. So I think he's definitely suited to play number 9 there. And he gets into the 6-yard box too. He scored a couple of goals there. in that position. Yeah, I have him down as a 7.
Yeah. I mean, he has got a really good goal return this season, and I think he's become that player that can make things from nothing, but can also kind of work with the players that he has around him. And I think the fact that he scored 16 goals this season when Bruno only came in January is actually it's relatively impressive, because our central attacking midfielding options haven't been that good, and it does show that he can sort of work with what he's been given. Would you like on the point about the striker? Actually, I think we're in for a striker only if the Galo deal can't be reached, because Shanghai are offering a £75 million contract for Igalo, and so he might choose to take that. I mean, £75 million is a staggering amount for anyone to be earning. So that's on the cards for them. So we'll have to see how that goes down. But Arion, would you think that Martial would then be able to, without a doubt, in the next 9 games, make it into 20 plus goals this season for the first time in his career?
I think he was well on track for it, and I think with all the speculations about United looking for a striker, I think he's earned himself this season with how he's looked and how he's carried the team at times, especially after Rashford got injured. He's won himself another season as being the main man, because he showed that he can be relied upon, And I think, like Jake mentioned, his versatility is underrated, because when he does drop off, he is able to turn into a creator, almost like a false 9 at times, and let people go beyond him. And he's very good technically. He's very good close control, which was something that everybody loved about him in his first season, the close control and how he had the ball almost on a thread of a needle. So yeah, I think he was well on track for that 20 goal mark at the pace that he was going. Now with Rashford coming back, I don't know because I mean they're both well into double digits. So I think it's not too far fetched to expect both of them, if not this season, next season, to reach 20 goals each, because that's what strikers at United are expected to do. But yeah, I think this season it's not, especially if we go back to the Europa League games and the FA Cup games are back too. I'm not sure about how that's going to go, but there's going to be plenty of games for him to get those goal scoring opportunities. And I think working with Solskjaer has been a blessing for him too, because like Jake mentioned, he's gotten more goals inside the box now, inside the 6-yard box, getting those headers in, more of those typical finisher goals, which I think it was a big criticism for him and Rashford that they weren't getting them in the past. So now working with that kind of an out and out striker like Solskjaer has helped them massively, and I think it shows on both of their goal scoring records this season. But yeah, I think I would rate him an 8, I think, because I think he's done very well. And like I said, he's carried the team at times, and I think he's won himself. It was kind of an audition for him, I think, this season to see if he has what it takes to be United's number 9. And I think he's shown that he can be. And I don't think a striker, like a first-choice striker, is a priority or nowhere near at the moment.
Thank you, yeah. Well, we've got one person saying 7, one person saying 8. We'll just split it down the middle, go for a 7.5 for this season, and then we'll continue on the route we were going. I mean, you were mentioning Marcus Rashford. Let's talk about him now. Like you're saying, set to make double figures for the season. Unfortunately, was injured in that Wolves game in January and has missed the last 2 months, the 2 months, February and March, that United still had games in. And, we thought, well, that's the end of that. And that was the main reason why we signed Igalo, really, because Rashford wasn't available. And, I mean, it was a crushing loss, because he was playing so very well before he got injured. And he wasn't even supposed to be playing against Wolves. And then he came on, he made a difference. United scored, and then he got injured, which was genuinely it was just such bad luck, really, because it was a weird injury to get, just a back injury, just straight from a challenge from the front, really. But Arion, I mean, he's had an amazing season at that point. 19 goals in 31 games is better than he's ever been. And from the left-hand side, that says it even more. How excited are you that he is going to be fit to start when the season resumes?
Really excited, because I think this season he finally became, I don't know if he learned how to handle that pressure, but he finally became the go-to guy. Like, when you think of Manchester United this season, you were thinking of him. Like, in the past, I don't want to compare him to Ronaldo, obviously, but he was that guy, for those years that you associated with United. And now this season, with that number 10 shirt and everything, he kind of grew into that shirt and started performing like a United number 10. And his output has been incredible from the left-hand side, nonetheless. Like, I think that's a part that's underlooked massively, is that he's done it from the wing, kind of an inside forward position. And yeah, I mean, it's a massive boost for us, because I think as much as we were on track to, I think, sneak into the top 4 without him, I think with him and Pogba back like that, we're a completely different level, I think, of a team with them fully fit. So yeah, I loved it. I loved how he played, and I really I've been really impressed with him, how he's handling himself off the pitch during this quarantine and stuff like that. He's really, despite his age, grown out to be a real leader in this side, and I think he's kind of grown into the role of being even a future captain in some people's eyes, and I think in my eyes too. And it's crazy how quickly that's turned around, because I think even this time last year, people were talking about, does he have a future at United? And now you can't really imagine a United side at their best without him in it. So I think his season has been as close to flawless as possible, despite with that injury aside. Like, having 19 goals in all competitions by January is still pretty impressive. So I think he's my player of the season personally. So I'm going to give him a 9, which is my highest score. But yeah, so that's me on Rashford.
Thank you. Yeah, I can't disagree that he has definitely been the player of the season. He's just been dynamic whenever we've seen him. We've been truly excited to see him play, and every time, I think he's proved a lot of people wrong, especially at the end of last season when people were criticizing his ability to finish, his footballing brain. And myself, I pulled up one of those commentary quotes from Peter Drury saying he has the footballing technique of Ronaldo, but the footballing brains of Benteke. And at the time it made sense, but he's truly changed my opinion of him in that sense, and done really, really well. And I can't say a bad word about him this season. Really, he's put everything he has on the pitch, and I mean, he's captained the team for the first time. Admittedly in a defeat, yes, but it was a big moment for him in his career. So that's something that you can't take away from him in that sense, even though it was a defeat. So I mean, Jake, would you agree with a 9?
Yeah, I have a 9 as well. I think I remember, was at the start of the season when people were like, is he a striker, is he a left winger? And I always thought he was a left winger. I think, was it away against Bulgaria or something for England? Do you remember when he scored 2 goals coming off the left wing, like 2 crackers? I think he's this new position, this like left-sided or right-sided striker, just sort of like Mane and Salah do. And I think he's came into that now. I think he is that whole side, pace, strength, great shooting. I think he's 19 goals. Like, I think, he could have finished on 25, late 20s had he not been injured, And I mean, like, that would have well exceeded expectations this season, Yeah, I had him down as a 9 as well.
Thank you. Yeah. We'll move straight on. This is going to be, I think, a more painful one for you, Jake. I'm going to ask you to rate Jesse Lingard's season. Obviously, we were expecting him to keep up with the work he had begun to do when Solskjaer took over. Obviously, basically playing as a false 9 at points, pressing and trying to force his way into the team. And he has managed to make 35 appearances this season, and yet he is yet to score in the Premier League. He hasn't scored in the Premier League since Ollie's first game against Cardiff. He has 2 goals to his name, one against Tranmere and one in a defeat to Astana, where he was the one of 2 senior players, I believe, and captained the side. But, I mean, there were points where Solskjaer was literally swearing at him to actually play well, or he's coming off, and he came off. I mean, he's had an awful season. I mean, is it even more than a 4?
It's Jesse, like last season and the season before, was like a certain starter. Like, who's going to play Cam and press Jesse Lingard all the time? And like, I don't know what happened this season. I mean, it goes to show things off the pitch can affect your performance on the pitch, because we all know about the stuff at home that's gone on with his family and stuff. And I mean, I put it down to that. I mean, I hate to give the guy bad rating, like I had him as a 3, but I mean, I was looking at his stats. I think he's 0 goals, 0 assists this season in the Premier League. Like that, I actually didn't even know he didn't have a goal since Solskjaer's first game against Cardiff. Like, that's pretty shocking, to be honest with you, especially for where he plays. You know, he isn't playing back. Like, he's up the pitch, you know, sort of way. I mean, it's difficult to give him a bad rating because I think it is mental stuff that's affected him, but he had to do better, didn't he? I mean, I was surprised he played as much as he did. I thought Mata would come in and take that. And it was refreshing to see Ollie give him a hiding, to be honest with you, that game. And like, it's good to see that, to be quite honest with you. I mean, we do have standards, and it goes to show you can be loved, and we love all your dancing, the Millie Rock at the Emirates and stuff, but you have to perform, I think. And he definitely is nowhere near the standards he set season before. I had him down as a 3.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I can't disagree with that at all. Obviously, he looks like he's going to be leaving this season, especially if we get someone in like Grealish or Maddison. And the fact that he obviously put Mino Raiola as his agent couple months ago kind of made that very clear that he wasn't planning to stay for much longer. Another player that, I mean, has obviously been in a similar position to Lingard is Andreas Pereira. He's played again 37 times this season. He started on the right hand side, and then because James played so well, he moved to a centre attacking midfield. He's obviously played also on the left, on the as a holding midfielder. And as I was talking about with a few people recently, he's just not put any kind of position to his name. He's not settled down in a single position that Solskjaer has put him in. Arion, I mean, he's played so many times, and obviously at points he has played well, but what rating would you give him overall for this season?
Pereira, the Pereira thing hurts me because he was breaking through around the same time as Januzaj, and I was really high on him because I felt like, and I still do feel like, he has all the skills to be a top footballer. Like, for a midfielder, you can't ask for a better touch, better technique, a nice shot, good from set pieces, like, and he's dynamic too. He can run for days. It's just the fact that he's got the football IQ of a fish, and he doesn't know how to make the decisions in the final third. He just seems to lose his head every time he's asked to play. And I feel like it's just because he's been decent on loans, and then when he just comes to play for United and he finally gets those chances, like the past 2 seasons, he's been used quite regularly. He just, like you said, can't nail down a position, and he can't really sell to us what he's really good at and what he can offer to this club going forward. But he did get a new contract quite recently, so I guess Ollie does see something in him that he might keep around for as a squad player, I guess. But in terms of this season, I think, like you touched on the Lingard thing, and Pereira hasn't been great. I feel like this season was the perfect season for somebody like Angel Gomez to really break through and get the games, which I'm sure we're going to talk about later on. But the fact that Pereira still, after getting so many chances, hasn't really solidified himself in like the first 15, 16 players that get taken into consideration for coming off the bench or starting. I think a 4 or is a fair score, because I think he's been better than Lingard, and he's contributed with a couple of goals and a couple of decent moments, but he just hasn't been great.
Yeah, I can't disagree at all. That is exactly. Yeah, I mean, he's had points where he's been pretty good, but those are becoming kind of much more sparse, and especially with Fernandes coming in, I mean, it just shows the huge difference in quality between the two of them. I think, yeah, 4's completely fair. I mean, Jake, I mean, would you sell them both, or would you loan Pereira out? What would you do with the pair?
Me and Arion spoke about Pereira when he was. I think Arion was it last summer. Do you remember when he went on tour, and we were saying how, you know, we think this guy can be sort of like Coutinho, and obviously that hasn't happened. Like, just because we thought he could get into the cam position and be creative and stuff. He was small and nimble, but yeah, I think there's a lot of deadwood at the club, and I think Pereira had his fair share of games this season to do something. I mean, he had a good moment against Burnley away, was it, when he slotted Martial in, showed a bit of tenacity on the right wing, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
But,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think there's just, I mean, you could keep him around as a squad player, I think, but for cup games and things like that. But I mean, as far as a starter, I don't think he's anywhere near the midfield. Like, I thought he could play the 6, play the whole midfielder, like. But
yeah, you know, in Mourinho's second season, when he was playing literally like the 6, just sitting in front of the back 4 for the whole preseason, and then I think he started the first game of the season, and we won, and he played quite well, and then we played in the second game, and we lost, and he made a mistake, and we just didn't see him since.
He was gone after that, wasn't he? He was just gone.
Yeah. Under Mourinho, he just
I remember that. Yeah,
game after he made that mistake, and I really thought he could be that number 6. Because we called him preseason Pirlo that year, because he was just great. He was making all the simple passes. He was winning balls back. He was just sitting in front of that back 4, and I really thought he might have found his position. But
he has a bit of bite in him as well. Like, he'll throw in a tackle and stuff. Yeah. And I mean, I think Fred has pretty much nailed that position there now, hasn't he? Yeah. I can't really see Pereira getting in anywhere near the midfield, to be quite honest with you. Especially like just the midfielders we already have, and then we're looking to bring in some like Jude Bellingham and stuff, like, you know. You know, I'm sure will be given, if there's going to be any spare minutes given, it's going to be given to someone like him or an academy player, Gomez, someone of the sort.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think really he's got a difficult choice to make, and only he can really kind of figure out what he wants to do.
He's another one I think who could go away to a different club and do very well. Like, when he was in the Liga, he was quality at times. He was really silky on the ball, great set pieces, scored a great free kick I've seen. I think he's another one, like we were saying, Phil Jones earlier on and stuff, who could go away and be great at a lower team. I think he could do the same. Him and Lingard, to be honest with you.
Yeah, thank you. I can't say that he wouldn't do that. Yeah, they do seem like those players that would just, if they're told they're going to be the most important player in a team, they will shine and they will show you what they can do. But they're never going to be the crucial player in a Manchester United side, and especially even if they weren't going to play well, they just. I mean, United went and bought Bruno Fernandes, and then it just said, well, you've clearly not shown us enough, so we're going to get this player, and he's outdone you in what, 12 games? Is that how many Bruno's played? But I mean, that's that for you. One player that did seem like he was going to be moving away to Galatasaray at the start of the season was next player on the list, Fred. He then didn't start at the beginning of the season. I don't think he was even on the bench. Obviously, he missed preseason because he was getting married, I believe. And then he managed, with Pogba's injury, he managed to find his way into the squad. And people were thinking, okay, we've got Fred in the squad, let's see how he does. And then he started to actually play football, which was amazing. I mean, he started to get the ball going quickly, he started to win the ball well, dribble past players, actually look like the player we did buy. He's made 39 appearances this season, and he's actually trebled his original goal tally from last season, and he's now got 3. Arion, how would you rate his season as a whole? Would you say he is by far one of the most improved players from last season?
Oh yeah, easily. I think at times it felt like he was a bit of a lost cause, especially last season, because he was getting games and it just wasn't clicking for him. But I think his biggest issue was the transition from Ukrainian league to the Premier League, because whenever he was on the ball in the early stages of his United career, he would take forever on the ball before making his decision. And when you're playing in the heart of midfield in England, there is just no time. You have to be sharp, and even somebody as experienced as Matic is a victim of that sometimes, because he carries on the ball for way too long before letting it go. And I think Fred finally adapted to that. I think he just needed some time to assess the speed and the physicality of England, and I think he's really grown into it now, and he's chipped in with a few goals this season as well. And I think he's one of those midfielders that can be a deep lying playmaker, because even though he doesn't go forward a lot, he does have a pass in him, and he's very good technically. He is Brazilian after all, and he's got very good ball control and good range of passing. And I really like him, and I like we said about Pereira, he's a little bit chippy too. He will throw in a tackle, and he has a little bit of fire behind him, and he's definitely. I see a lot of people on social media have him as one of their player of the season candidates, and I don't think it would be a reach to give it to him, because I think overall he might have been one of the most consistent players in terms of he's never really played bad this season, but he's never really been like fantastic either. He's just been good, and I think in his position, when people don't talk about you too much, that's a good thing, because you're not making mistakes and you're just going about your job and dictating the pace of the game. So I really enjoyed him this season, and yeah, he's really. I think there was a lot of players that had this season was an audition for them to win a place in this squad for that Ollie is building for the future, and I think he was one of them that passed with flying colors and showed that he can be a real asset to that United midfield, and especially in the big games. I think it all started for him in that PSG game last season, where he was asked to kind of lead midfield really with a lot of inexperienced players around him, and he did. And yeah, I think he carried that on right into this season despite missing preseason. So I think I'd give him like a 7.5. I think it would be a good marking point for him for a first very good season in the United shirt.
Yeah, I do agree. I think he's shown qualities, and he's shown that he can be the player we wanted, that we bought at the beginning, the player that cost 60 million, and so we just want to see him keep going, because obviously, you can have one good season, but it's a point to just keep it up really. And that midfield is going to be more competitive than ever really, with Pogba coming back, and obviously Fred's McTominay, Matic, and Bruno all performing really well before the season finished. So we'll have to see how it actually turns out. But I'm excited to see that we are actually going to have a competitive midfield for the first time in what it seems like ages. So that's always, a massive boost. Next is, of course, our current number 18, Bruno Fernandes. He has made 9 appearances this season. He has scored 3 goals and set up 4 assists, and he has won 2 Premier League Player of the Month awards. I mean, Jake, how crucial was it that we actually managed to finally sign Bruno Fernandes?
I actually think it was a bit of. I think if Rashford didn't get injured, I don't think we get him. To be honest with you, I think
really.
I think because if you think about it, we were supposedly in for this guy in the summer, and then we didn't get him. I think we hesitated and went, "Nah, we're all right." I think we went into a bit of desperation, and also how the season sort of went, obviously as well. I think, but Bruno is that guy. He's a bit of a De Bruyne. Joe, De Bruyne came back from Wolfsburg and was came back to the Premier League from Wolfsburg and was just this creative, calm, who just took over games. And Bruno is that. He just gets the ball, wants the ball straight away. And he's also a leader as well. I heard Maguire talking on Sky Sports about it, saying he's very demanding, doesn't take any, crap or anything. And I think that goal against Everton got me up off my seat. It's so good to have someone who can take set pieces as well. I mean, bloody hell! Like, just me and Arion have spoken. We're always speaking through matches and stuff with the same Joe on Messenger, just talking about. It's always the set pieces, the set pieces, the set pieces. Like, and then when he got that assist for Maguire against Chelsea, man, it was just so nice. It's so the set pieces are not that difficult. I mean, it's just put it into a zone, and we just couldn't do it. Like, I mean, how many times did the ball hit the first man on a corner, or like Rashford, I hate to dig him out, like, but his set pieces were always so bad. The dude wanted to shoot from 60 yards out half the time. But yeah, he's just been, I mean, well deserved to get in that team of the season for BBC. Loved it, absolutely loved it. Got all the other teams riled up. I mean, yeah, he's the real deal. I mean, I had my hesitations because he got his stats were from the Portuguese league, so you're sort of like, I was a bit iffy, but he came in like, and off the first game, I mean, he was getting the ball, creating chances, shooting and stuff, and he's just, yeah, I have him down as an 8 just because he did join in January, but he's been absolute quality.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think he transformed the team really just by being there. He doesn't really, he's just a brilliant player. And Arion, I'm assuming you're happy with the 8 rating, but I'm going to ask you, how much does it show that we haven't? Sorry, how kind of much does it show how negligent Woodward was to opt against signing him in the summer and then to wait so long in January to sign him again?
Yeah, I mean, imagine the surprise that you sign a quality player and the team turns better immediately. Like that's crazy to think about. But yeah, I mean, I think if there was any reservations in terms of the transfer policy and stuff heading into the summer, I think he's proved to everybody that if you are willing to spend the money on quality, then that quality shows. If you're recruiting right, I can't imagine, or I can't remember another player that came in and quite had the same impact as him right from the get-go. Like you said, he's literally transformed the team. Like, it just feels like as soon as he stepped into the side, everybody's confidence went up tenfold, which is, it's not common. So the leadership, the confidence that oozes from him is crazy. Like Jake said, when his first game against Tottenham Wolves, he was calling for the ball every play, like he was there and known everybody for 5 seasons. So yeah, and I just think it was the only thing that's annoying is that they waited so long. Like, I'm not sure what the reservations were in the summer that they kind of got over in 6 months until January. But I'm glad that he's here later. Like, better late than never. And the potential of a partnership with the likes of Pogba are just mouthwatering. So yeah, an 8.5 I think is a fair assessment, but I would love to give him a 10, to be honest. But I want to be
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm expecting him to be doing some wonders when we resume the league. So we'll see how that gets on. This is obviously the end of part 1 of our rating the Manchester United players. Before we finish for part 1, and then we'll resume part 2 next week, there is one thing that's just come out today, is that the FA Cup has actually decided to resume. The quarterfinals, where United will be playing Norwich City, will start on the 27th and the 28th of June. The quarterfinals will be held. The semi-finals will be on the 11th and 12th of July, and then the final will be held on the 1st of August. It does mean that there is some silverware that United can then get. How important do you think it will be for United to actually win a trophy this season, Arion?
I hope they bring back Europa League too, because we're going to win both of them. Clip this up. I think it's huge especially because of such a young side. I think before you start challenging for the Premier League and the Champions League, you need that experience, and not a lot of those players in that team have that experience, especially in England. Like, the likes of Bruno came from winning stuff abroad, but he has never experienced it in England at the highest level yet. So I think it's huge, and it builds character. It shows you who the leaders are, who you rely on in those big games. And even Maguire hasn't been in those kind of high pressure cup final situations. So I think it will be huge. And the way we were going before the break, I would tip heavily to get a couple of trophies, like with the FA Cup and the Europa League. So yeah, I'm glad they're bringing it back, because it's the quarterfinal stage, so there's not many games left. So yeah, no, I think it would be huge to build that winning mentality, that this team needs, I think, in order to make the next step.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that is all we have time for this week. Thank you for listening, and thank you for Arion and Jake for joining me this week. We will, of course, see you again next week as we continue part 2 of ranking the Manchester United players' season so far out of 10, and we'll begin with Diogo Dalot. If you have any questions or any topics you would like for us to cover, then please comment below on the video or on the Twitter or Facebook post. And if you enjoyed this, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and follow us on Twitter for all of our content.